Hey, Jason here from Simply Swider. So if your Hotpoint dishwasher isn't draining properly and you've got standing water sitting in the bottom of that tub after a cycle, don't worry, in this video I'm going to show you exactly how to fix it. Good news is most of these drainage problems are actually pretty straightforward DIY fixes that take 5 to 20 minutes and will save you anywhere from $150 to $300 on a service call. Before we get started, if you run into any questions, jump into our Facebook group, links in the description. We've got thousands of people helping each other fix their appliances, and I pop in there daily to help out. All right, so here's what's actually happening behind the scenes when your Hotpoint dishwasher won't drain. These machines rely on a series of filters, valves, and pumps working together to move that dirty water out. When one part of this system gets clogged or fails, you end up with standing water and dishes that come out worse than when they went in. Real world breakdown from my experience, filter clogs cause about 70% of these drainage issues, followed by simple plumbing problems like kinked hoses or forgotten knockout plugs. Internal mechanical failures with check valves and pump components show up next, and electrical component failures are the least common but most expensive to fix. Here's how I approach every drainage problem. Think in four layers. First, external plumbing like hoses and connections. Second, internal filters that catch debris. Third, mechanical parts like valves and pumps that move the water. And fourth, electrical components that control everything. A drainage fault will always live in one of those four layers. Our job is to figure out which one, starting with the quickest checks first. Now, if your hotpoint has error codes showing up, here's what they mean. F03 is a drain timeout. Basically, the dishwasher gave up waiting for the water to drain. F04 is a straight up water not draining code. And F11 means the drain pump itself is having issues. These codes help narrow down where to focus our troubleshooting. So the big one, and I mean this is probably 70% of the drainage calls I get, is a clogged filter system. You can see right here on the screen what we're dealing with. I had this customer last month call me in a panic because her dishwasher was leaving food particles all over her dishes and wouldn't drain. Turned out she'd been running that dishwasher for 2 years without ever cleaning the filters. 2 years. Don't ask me how that thing was still running. Here's what happens. Hotpoint dishwashers have a multi-stage filter system at the bottom of the tub. You've got a coarse filter, a fine filter, and usually a cylindrical filter. Food particles, grease, and soap scum build up in these filters over time, and eventually they get so clogged that water can't flow through. The fix is dead simple and takes about 5 minutes. First, pull out that bottom dish rack. Second, unscrew the cylindrical filter by turning it counterclockwise. It should come out easily by hand. Third, lift out the coarse and fine filters underneath. Fourth, rinse all filters under warm running water and use an old toothbrush to scrub out any stubborn gunk. Finally, reinstall everything in reverse order. Here's the thing most people don't know. Those filters should be cleaned every month or two, depending on how often you run the dishwasher. A little prevention saves a lot of frustration later. Another super common issue that catches people off guard, the garbage disposal knockout plug. This one's sneaky because it only happens when someone's installed a new garbage disposal and connected the dishwasher drain hose to it. Inside every new garbage disposal, there's a solid plastic knockout plug that blocks the dishwasher connection. You're supposed to punch this out with a hammer and screwdriver before connecting the drain hose, but here's what I see all the time. Installers forget this step and the dishwasher can't drain because that plug is still sitting there blocking everything. I remember this guy who called me absolutely furious because his brand new dishwasher wasn't working. Spent 20 minutes under his sink and found that knockout plug still intact. Popped it out and boom, dishwasher drained perfectly. To check this, first turn off power to the garbage disposal for safety. Then get under the sink and disconnect the drain hose from the garbage disposal. You might need pliers to loosen the hose clamp. Look inside that connection point with a flashlight. If you see a solid plastic barrier, that's your problem. Use a hammer and screwdriver to knock it out from inside the disposal, then fish out all the plug pieces before reconnecting everything. Now let's talk about the drain hose itself, that corrugated plastic tube that carries water from your dishwasher to either the garbage disposal or the sink drain. This thing can cause problems in a couple ways. The most common issue is kinking. That flexible hose gets twisted or crushed, especially where it makes tight turns under the sink. Food sludge and grease also love to build up inside these hoses, particularly at connection points. Here's what a lot of people miss. The drain hose needs to have what we call a high loop. Basically, it should loop up to the underside of your countertop before dropping down to connect to the disposal or drain. Without this high loop, dirty water from your sink can siphon back into the dishwasher. Not exactly what you want. I had a lady call me because her dishes kept coming out with a weird smell and residue. Turned out her drain hose was running straight from the dishwasher to the garbage disposal with no high loop. Every time she used the sink, that dirty water was backing up into her dishwasher. Fixed the loop, problem solved. Here's a notorious problem on many Hotpoint and GE models: the piston and nut assembly at the back of the tub. This little component is responsible for more slow draining dishwashers than you'd think. What happens is the rubber gasket on this assembly starts to erode over time. It literally shrinks from about the size of a quarter down to the size of a dime. When that happens, it can't create a proper seal, and you get this slow trickling drain that takes forever. I've seen this so many times. Customer calls and says their dishwasher takes hours to drain if it drains at all. 9 times out of 10 on these Hotpoint models, it's this piston assembly. The good news, it usually unscrews by hand or with a pair of pliers. The replacement part is cheap and the fix takes about 10 minutes. Way better than buying a new dishwasher. Getting into the electrical components now, many Hotpoint models use a drain solenoid that controls a diverter arm to open and close the drain valve. When this solenoid fails, water can't get into the drain system. Here's what's interesting: if the drain path gets blocked, this solenoid can overheat and actually melt its plastic casing. I've seen solenoids that look like they went through a fire. To test the solenoid, you'll need to disconnect power, remove the kick plate, and find the solenoid near the pump. Disconnect the two wires and test with a multimeter set to ohms. A healthy solenoid should read between 15 and 40 ohms. No reading means it's failed. This is where you start getting into more expensive repairs. The solenoid itself isn't too pricey, but if it overheated and damaged other components, costs can add up. The filter system parts are usually around $20 to $40 for a complete set, depending on your model. These filters are designed to be cleaned rather than replaced, but after years of use, they can crack or warp. Honestly, though, I rarely see people need to replace filters. A good cleaning with warm water and an old toothbrush brings most filters back to life. If you do need replacements, they're easy to install. Just unscrew the old ones and screw in the new ones. The check ball itself is usually just a few bucks, and the rubber flapper valve runs about $15 to $25. These are simple drop in replacements, no special tools required. The check ball literally just sits in place, and the flapper valve usually clips or screws into position. Even if you're not mechanically inclined, these are manageable DIY fixes. Drain solenoids run about $40 to $80 depending on your model. The installation isn't too complicated, but you'll need basic electrical skills to disconnect and reconnect the wires. If you're not comfortable working with electrical components, this might be where you call a pro. The part isn't expensive, but if you wire it wrong, you could damage the control board. All right, if you're dealing with faulty parts, let's talk about what you're looking at cost-wise and when it makes sense to DIY versus calling someone like me. Here's the bottom line on costs. About 70% of drainage problems need zero parts, just cleaning and clearing blockages. When you do need parts, most cost under $50. Compare that to a service call at $150 to $300, and you can see why it's worth trying the DIY route first, even if you're not super handy. T. Now, before we wrap up, you can see right there on your screen the most common Hotpoint models that experience these drainage issues. You might spot your own unit in that list. The thing about Hotpoint dishwashers is they're actually made by GE, so you'll see some overlap with GE model problems. The drain system design is pretty consistent across these model families, which means the fixes I've shown you apply to most units in the lineup. If you've got one of these models shown here and you're dealing with drainage problems, start with the simple stuff. Clean those filters, check the garbage disposal knockout plug, and inspect the drain hose. That'll solve most of your issues right there. That's how you tackle Hotpoint dishwasher drainage problems. Start with the simple stuff. Clean the filters, check for knockout plugs, and inspect the drain hose. Those three things will fix probably 80% of drainage issues you'll run into. If you're still having problems after the basic checks, move on to the internal components: check valve, piston assembly, and impeller blockages. And if none of that works, then you're looking at electrical components like the drain solenoid or pump motor. Here's your maintenance schedule to prevent these problems. Clean your filters every month, check the drain hose every 6 months, and watch for early warning signs like slow draining or food particles on clean dishes. When you spot these signs, don't wait. clean those filters, and check the basics before a small problem becomes a big one. Remember, this drainage failure pattern isn't unique to Hotpoint. Any dishwasher that relies on filters, check valves, and pump systems can develop these same issues over time. The troubleshooting approach stays the same across brands. Start simple and work your way up to the complex stuff. If you guys know someone who's having appliance troubles, please send them the link to this video or a link to my channel where I have tons of other videos showing how to fix pretty common issues with appliances, sometimes for free or as little cost as possible. It sure beats having a repairman come out and spending several hundred for them to fix it when it could be something so simple. If this helped you get your Hotpoint dishwasher draining again, hit that like button and drop a comment below. Let me know which fix worked for you. Really helps other people with the same problem. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. We'll get this out to more folks who need to save some time and money. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.